A fist slammed into a man's face, and the sound cracked through the private lounge like a gunshot. Lyla Green froze in the doorway, half stumbling, half dragged by the bass of Nocturne behind her. The velvet walls, the dim gold light, the circle of men in suits. None of it felt real. It felt like a set built for a movie she'd never paid to see. The man on his knees begged. The men around him didn't react. The one standing in front of him didn't even look angry. He looked bored, like violence was paperwork. Again, the man in the black suit said. 2 guards hauled the kneeling man upright. Another fist landed. Blood hit the floor. Lyla's throat tightened. She should have backed out. She should have pretended she never saw anything. But her brain was still swimming in cheap vodka, in exhaustion, in a year of fear that had turned reckless. So she did the stupid thing. She laughed. One short, bright laugh that didn't belong in that room. Every head turned. A guard stepped toward her, hands sliding under his jacket. The man in the black suit lifted 2 fingers, and the guard stopped like a machine powered down. Then those eyes, dark, calm, deadly, locked on Lyla. He walked to her slowly, like he had all night, all life. When he reached her, he leaned in, close enough that she smelled cologne over blood. Lyla heard her own voice come out, slurred and bold. What are you supposed to be? Some kind of bad boy? Silence dropped like a trapdoor. If you're watching on Story Lens TV, welcome. Because right here is where one drunk sentence rewrote Lyla's entire life, and the only way out was through. The man's mouth curved. Not a smile, not quite. He brushed his lips near her ear and whispered, "You have no idea what I am." Her friend Tasha yanked Lyla backward so hard Lyla stumbled. "We're leaving," Tasha hissed. "Now." They shoved through the crowd, escaped into the cold night, got into a rideshare that smelled like old fries. Lyla pressed her forehead to the window and watched city lights smear. Her phone buzzed again. Another hospital number, another billing message. Her mother, Marla, was dying in a fluorescent room, and Lyla had spent the last year working 3 jobs, 70 hours a week, and still watching debts stack like bricks on her chest. Tasha stared at her. "Do you know who that was?" Lyla swallowed, the vodka fading. "Some rich guy." Tasha's laugh broke. That was Damien Vexler, the Revenant. The name landed like ice. Lyla had heard it before, whispers at the diner, rumors in the neighborhood. A man who made problems vanish. A man who didn't get told no. Lyla's stomach dropped. "He didn't hurt me." "Not yet," Tasha said. Lyla tried to sleep when she got home. She couldn't. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her mother's photo taped to the top of a pile of bills. Marla smiling weakly, even in pain, even in a hospital gown. Lyla whispered into the quiet, "Hold on, please." Morning hit like a punishment. Lyla dragged herself into her uniform and ran to Greyhound Diner. Her main job, the one that kept her rent paid, barely. Gary, the owner, glanced up. "You okay, kid?" Lyla forced a smile. "Always." At 10:42, the diner's front window went dark. 2 black SUVs rolled up, glossy enough to reflect the sky. Men stepped out, calm and coordinated, like a storm with a schedule. The bell over the door jingled, and Damien Vexler walked in. He didn't scan the room like someone uncertain. He moved like the room was already his. Black suit, no tie, shirt open at the throat, eyes that didn't apologize for existing. Gary stiffened. "Sir, can I?" Damien's gaze slid past him and landed on Lyla. "Coffee." Lyla's hands shook as she poured it. She carried the mug over and set it down. Damien didn't touch it. He watched her face. "Sober today?" Lyla stared back, trying not to flinch. "What do you want?" Damien reached into his jacket and slid an envelope across the table. "Open it." Lyla's pulse hammered. She opened it. Hospital invoices. Her mother's name. Numbers so big they made her dizzy. Stamped in red, paid. Lyla's breath caught. This can't be." "It's real," Damien said. "Your mother's debt is cleared. Every cent." Relief hit her so hard her knees weakened. Then fear followed, colder and sharper. Lyla whispered, "Why?" Damien's voice stayed smooth. Because you walked into my lounge and spoke to me like I was just a man. That was alcohol? Lyla snapped, but her voice trembled. Damien's eyes didn't change. Alcohol reveals. It doesn't invent. Gary stepped in, angry. If you're here to threaten my waitress, you can get out. Damien finally looked at Gary, mild as a judge. I admire loyalty. Step away. Gary didn't. Damien looked back at Lyla. Come with me. Lila's throat tightened. No. Damien nodded once. You can refuse. But the world doesn't return what I've paid. Debt doesn't vanish. It changes hands. Lila's phone buzzed. She answered without thinking. A nurse's voice. Ms. Green? Your mother has been transferred to St. Caro Private Care Center. Her new physician will call you today. Lila's blood turned to ice. Transferred? Why? It's arranged, the nurse said. It's already done. Lyla looked at Damien. He watched her like he'd been listening. 5 minutes, he said. Lila's mind ran in circles. Call the police? For what? A man paying a bill? She pictured her mother in a better room, cleaner sheets, actual comfort. She pictured her mother dying because Lyla chose pride. Gary's hand closed around Lila's arm. Kid, don't. Lyla swallowed and whispered. If I go, do you hurt her? Damien's eyes narrowed, offended. No. Do you hurt me? Lyla asked, voice shaking. Damien leaned forward. I don't hit women. Obedience is cheaper bought than forced. That's disgusting, Lyla said. It's honest, Damien replied. Lila's chest ached. She untied her apron with shaking hands and set it down like a surrender. Gary's face broke. Lyla, I'm sorry, she whispered, and walked out. If you want to keep getting stories that hit like this, fast, dark, and emotional, tap like and subscribe now. Tells YouTube you want more, and it tells me you're still here with Lyla. The SUV door closed, and the world got quiet. Damien sat beside her. He didn't touch her. He didn't need to. My phone, Lyla said when the screen went dead. Damien handed her a new one. That one is safer. Safer from who? Lyla demanded. From everyone, Damien said. Including me. They drove into the city's wealth. Into a glass tower that looked like it belonged to another planet. In an underground garage, security nodded them through. An elevator shot upward so fast Lila's stomach floated. The penthouse door opened to light, silence, and a skyline that made Lyla feel small. Floor-to-ceiling windows, white furniture, a kitchen that looked untouched, closets full of clothes that fit her like someone had measured her life. Lyla turned in a slow circle. This is insane. Damien took off his jacket, hung it neatly. This is safe. 2 guards stood near the door like statues. So I'm a prisoner, Lyla said. Damien poured water, calm. A prisoner gets beaten. You will be protected. That's a prison with better lighting, Lyla snapped. Damien's eyes flicked to hers. Call it what you want. You will not leave without my shadow. If you do, my enemies will take you. You made me a target, Lyla whispered. Damien's voice was low. Yes, and now I have to keep you alive. For the first few nights, Lyla tried to treat the penthouse like a hotel she could check out of if she just waited long enough. She slept with her shoes near the bed. She counted the seconds between guard patrols. She tested doors, elevators, the lobby. Every time she moved, the world gently pushed her back inside. Not with hands, but with presence. Damien didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He used quiet as a weapon. On day 3, Lyla marched into the living room and pointed at the guards. Do they watch me when I sleep? Damien didn't look up from his laptop. No. Do they watch me when I shower? Lyla demanded. Damien's eyes lifted. Flat. No. Lila's voice shook. Then what do they watch? You, Damien said. When you try to disappear. Lila's chest tightened. I'm not trying to disappear. I'm trying to leave. Damien's mouth barely moved. Those are the same thing in my world. Lyla took a hard breath, forcing her hands to stop trembling. Then let me work. Let me do something. Sitting here makes me feel like I'm going insane. Damien studied her for a long beat, then closed his laptop. Fine. Lyla's heart jumped. Fine. Damien's tone stayed calm. You want something to do? You'll train. Lyla blinked. Train for what? To survive, Damien said simply. If you stay near me, you stop being fragile. I'm not fragile, Lyla snapped. Damien's eyes flicked over her, assessing, not insulting. You're exhausted. There's a difference. He stood and walked to a closet. He tossed her a black athletic set still folded. Change. Lyla caught it, stunned. You're serious? Yes, Damien said. Marco will teach you basics. You'll learn where to stand, how to move, how to notice exits. Not to fight like my men. To survive like a person who might be hunted. Lyla's throat tightened. You're turning me into part of this. Damien's gaze held hers. You already are. I'm just making it honest. Lyla wanted to scream, but another part of her, small, buried, stubborn, felt a flicker of relief. If she couldn't leave, she could at least stop feeling helpless. That afternoon, Marco showed her simple things. How to keep her back to a wall in public, how to scan hands, how to spot a tail without looking paranoid. Lyla hated how quickly it made sense. You're not teaching me to be safe, she muttered. You're teaching me to be useful. Marco's voice stayed quiet. In this world, those are the same thing. That night, Damien set a plate of food on the table and said, Eat with me. Lyla hesitated. Why? Because I'm tired of you eating like you're hiding, Damien replied. Lyla sat anyway, spine straight, ready to fight if he tried to touch her. But he didn't. He just ate, calm, like sharing a table wasn't intimate, just practical. Halfway through, Lyla asked the question that kept clawing at her ribs. If you didn't hit me, what would you do if I tried to leave again? Damien set down his fork. I would stop you. How? Lyla pressed. Damien's eyes stayed on hers. I would make your world smaller. Lyla's jaw tightened. That's cruelty. Damien's voice lowered. Cruelty is letting you walk into the street and get taken because you wanted to prove you weren't owned. I won't let pride bury you. Lyla swallowed hard, hate and gratitude tangled. You talk like you're saving me. Damien's gaze didn't blink. I am. Lyla's voice cracked. I didn't ask to be saved. Damien leaned back, calm. No, you asked for your mother to live. This is what that costs. Mirela, a woman in a crisp uniform, appeared with food and a gentle voice. Lyla hated that she was hungry, hated that luxury felt like relief. Damien said, You'll see your mother today. Lyla's chest tightened. You're coming. I will, Damien replied. So no one bothers you. At St. Caro, Lyla stepped into a private room and saw her mother sitting up, eyes open, color in her cheeks. Lyla, Marla whispered, and Lyla broke. She rushed to the bed, gripping her mother's hand. I'm here. I'm here. Marla's fingers trembled. Where have you been? Lyla swallowed, glancing at Damien near the door. I got help, she lied softly. Marla's gaze slid to Damien. Who is that? Damien stepped forward with perfect politeness. Mr. Vexler, a friend. Lyla almost choked. Marla's eyes narrowed. A friend. A doctor arrived and spoke about specialists, medication, stabilization. Lyla clung to each word like oxygen. When they were alone again, Marla squeezed Lyla's hand. How are you paying for this? Lyla's throat tightened. It's handled. Marla stared like she could see through bone. At what cost? Lyla whispered. Don't. Marla's voice cracked. Promise me you won't trade your life for mine. Lyla's breath caught. Damien watched from the corner, still as a shadow. Lyla forced the lie out. I promise. Back in the SUV, Lyla stared at her hands. She'd saved her mother and betrayed herself in the same breath. At the penthouse, she rounded on Damien. I lied to her. Damien's gaze didn't blink. Yes. You forced me, Lyla snapped. Damien stepped closer, calm as a cliff. I gave you a chance to save her. You took it. You took my freedom, Lyla whispered. Damien's voice lowered. Your freedom was being eaten alive by debt and exhaustion. Don't romanticize suffering. Lyla's eyes burned. You don't get to decide what my life was. Damien's gaze sharpened. And you don't get to pretend you weren't drowning. The truth hurt because it was true. Lyla walked away before she cried in front of him. The next morning she came out ready to fight, because anger was lighter than despair. I need rules, Lyla said. Damien looked up from his laptop. Rules? If you're keeping me, she said, voice steady, then I need to know what you expect. Damien studied her. Stay. Don't run. Don't lie to me. Lyla swallowed. And if I do? Then the world gets smaller, Damien said. Lyla's stomach tightened. Punishment. Protection, Damien corrected. Lyla forced herself not to shake. I want one rule from you. Damien's eyebrow lifted. Speak. No violence in front of me, Lyla said. If you want me here, you don't turn me into your witness. The room went still. Even the guards seemed to pause. Damien held her gaze, then nodded once. Agreed. Lyla exhaled shakily. It wasn't freedom, but it was a line. A thin line, but hers. After Damien left that afternoon, Marco, one of the guards, older, quieter, lingered near the kitchen. He spoke without looking at her. You set a boundary. Lyla's laugh was bitter. That's what we're calling it? Marco's mouth twitched. In this world? Yes. Lyla stared out at the skyline. Is he ever going to let me go? Marco didn't soften. Not while he believes you'll be safer with him than without him. Which means never, Lyla whispered. Marco looked at her, tired. Which means you learn to survive on your feet, not on his. Days blurred into a routine that felt unreal. Mirella made sure Lyla ate. Damien came and went. Sometimes he ignored Lyla like furniture. Sometimes he asked questions like she mattered. One night he called her into his office. Lyla walked in, spine straight. What? Damien's gaze held hers. Tell me about your mother. Lyla blinked. Why? Because I paid for her, Damien said simply. Now she's a detail in my life. Lyla's anger rose. She's not your detail. Damien's voice stayed calm. Then speak. Lyla swallowed and forced herself to answer. Her name is Marla. She likes old movies and strawberry candy. She raised me alone. She danced in the kitchen when we had nothing. Damien listened without interrupting, eyes steady, like he was storing the words. Lyla's voice cracked. She got sick, and everything collapsed. Damien nodded once. And you carried it. Lyla's throat tightened. I tried. Damien leaned back. You hate me. Yes, Lyla said immediately. I know, Damien replied, and the calmness of it made her chest ache. Lyla stepped closer before she could stop herself. Why me? Damien's gaze sharpened. Because you're honest when you're afraid. That's not a compliment, Lyla snapped. It is in my world, Damien said quietly. Lyla's hands trembled. Let me go. No, Damien said, simple as gravity. Lyla's eyes burned. She turned to leave. Damien's voice followed her. Sleep, like he was giving an order, like he cared, like both were true. A week later, Lyla got a text from an unknown number. Tasha, are you alive? Lyla's heart punched hard. She typed back, I'm alive. Don't come looking. Tasha, where are you? I'm calling the cops. Lyla's throat went dry. She typed, don't. It'll make it worse. Tasha, it's him, isn't it? Vexler? Lyla stared at the screen, then typed, yes. 3 dots. Then Lyla run. Footsteps sounded in the hall. Lyla shoved the phone under a pillow. Marco entered without knocking. His eyes flicked to the bed. Your friend will get herself killed. Lyla's chest tightened. Help me warn her. Marco hesitated, then pulled Lyla's old phone from his pocket. 2 minutes, he said. Then it disappears again. Lyla's hands shook as she dialed. Tasha answered instantly. Lyla, listen, Lyla whispered. You cannot come. Do you hear me? Tasha's voice cracked. Where are you? I can't say, Lyla said. But you coming puts you in danger. Tasha spat, furious. He's a criminal. And criminals have enemies, Lyla whispered. If you step into this, you become bait. Silence. Tasha whispered. Are you okay? Lyla's throat tightened. No. Tasha's voice softened. Then let me help. You help by staying alive, Lyla said, voice shaking. Please. Tasha swallowed hard. Call me when you can. Don't disappear. I won't, Lyla promised, and handed the phone back to Marco. That night, Lyla confronted Damien. You're watching my calls, she said. Damien didn't deny it. Yes. You'll hurt her if she comes near, Lyla said, forcing steady words. Damien's gaze sharpened. If she becomes a problem, she will be removed. Lyla's breath caught. Removed like? Damien's voice lowered. Don't ask. Lyla's eyes filled with tears, anger and fear tangled. I need weekly visits with my mother. Guaranteed. And I need one call to Tasha each week. No spying. Damien studied her. And what do I get? Lyla's voice shook. I stay. Damien held her gaze, then nodded once. Agreed. Relief hit so hard Lyla nearly collapsed. Back in the city, Damien's promises became a pattern Lyla could measure. Her weekly calls to Tasha happened on schedule. Her visits to Marla happened with no last-minute cancellations. The predictability didn't make her free, but it gave her something she hadn't felt in a year. Ground. Still, the penthouse tried to soften her, and Lyla fought it like it was a disease. She refused the diamond earrings Mirella laid out. She kept wearing simple clothes. She did her training with Marco until sweat replaced panic. She kept her jaw tight, like looseness meant surrender. Damien noticed everything. One evening he came home and found Lyla reading in the library, a thick book open on her lap. He paused in the doorway. You read fast. Lyla didn't look up. It keeps my brain from chewing itself. Damien stepped in, hands in pockets. What are you reading? Something that has nothing to do with you, Lyla said. Damien's mouth curved faintly. Liar. Lyla finally looked up. The book was about organized crime history, something she'd grabbed out of stubborn curiosity. She held his gaze. I'm trying to understand the trap I'm in. Damien's eyes sharpened, not offended. Good. Lyla blinked. Good. Damien's voice was calm. Ignorance is how people die around me. If you're going to stay near me, you learn. Lyla's throat tightened. You keep saying near you, like I'm a satellite. Damien stepped closer. Then stop orbiting. Stand. Stand where? Lyla demanded. Damien's gaze held hers. In your own skin. Stop waiting for permission to exist. Lyla stared at him, stunned by the strange encouragement wrapped in control. Another night, Damien brought her to the dining table and slid a file across to her. Numbers, names, a simple map. Tell me what you see. Lyla's pulse jumped. I'm not helping you do crime. Damien's tone stayed even. You're helping you. Look. Lyla forced herself to scan it. A pattern emerged. Money moving in circles, one account too loud, one name recurring. Lyla pointed at it without thinking. That's the leak. Damien's eyes narrowed, impressed. Why? Because it's sloppy, Lyla said, heart pounding. It repeats. It thinks no one will notice. Damien's mouth curved faintly. You notice. Lyla swallowed. So what happens to the person making it sloppy? Damien's gaze went cold. They lose the privilege of breathing. Lyla's stomach tightened. I said no violence in front of me. Damien nodded once. And you won't see it. Lyla realized then. Learning didn't make her innocent. It made her informed. And informed people were harder to cage. During one of her visits, Marla looked stronger, cheeks less hollow. She studied Lyla's face with a quiet, terrifying clarity. You're not sleeping in your old apartment, Marla said softly. Lyla's throat tightened. No. Marla squeezed her hand. Are you safe? Lyla hesitated, then chose the honest version she could afford. I'm protected. Marla's eyes sharpened. Protected by who? Lyla forced a smile. Someone with money. Marla watched her for a long moment. Money always asks for something back. Lila's voice cracked. I know. Marla whispered. Lyla, I don't want you shrinking so I can live. Lyla swallowed hard. I'm not shrinking. Marla's fingers tightened. Then don't. If you're trapped, find a way to stand up inside it. That night, Lyla went back to the penthouse and told Damien. My mother knows something is wrong. Damien's gaze held hers. Mothers always know. Lila's voice shook. She wants me to run. Damien's tone stayed calm. And do you? Lyla stared at him, heart pounding. Sometimes. Damien nodded once, as if accepting the answer mattered more than the answer itself. Then I'll give you another door when you're ready. Lila's breath caught. Another? Why would you do that? Damien's eyes darkened. Because if you stay without a door, you become a prisoner. And he paused, jaw flexing, like the admission hurt. I don't want you to look at me and see only chains. Lila's throat tightened. You're the one holding them. Damien's voice lowered. Yes. The honesty left her with nowhere to hide. And then, like the universe heard her mother's warning, Tasha did what Lyla begged her not to do. One Friday, during their scheduled call, Tasha's voice came through tight and breathless. Lyla, don't panic. Lila's blood turned cold. Where are you? Tasha whispered. I'm near your building. Lyla shot to her feet, heart slamming. Tasha, leave. I saw the guards, Tasha said, voice shaking. I saw the cars. Lyla, you can't stay. Get away, Lyla hissed. She looked toward the living room, toward the guards. Please, now. Tasha's breathing turned fast. Someone's watching me. Lila's stomach dropped. Run. The line went dead. Lyla stood shaking, phone pressed to her ear, as the penthouse around her suddenly felt like a lid closing. Marco appeared in the doorway, face tight. Miss Green. Don't. Lyla snapped, tears bursting. Don't tell me. Just don't. Marco's eyes flicked toward the elevator. Boss is coming. Lila's chest heaved. She whispered, if she's hurt. Marco's voice was quiet. We'll fix it. Lyla laughed through tears. Bitter. You can't fix everything. Marco's eyes were tired. Boss thinks he can. The elevator dinged. Damien stepped out, already moving, eyes sharp. He took one look at Lila's face and knew. Tasha. Lila's voice broke. She came. Damien's jaw clenched, rage tight and controlled. Where is she now? Lyla shook, sobbing. I don't know. The call dropped. Damien turned to Marco. Find her. Marco nodded, already moving. Damien looked back at Lyla, voice low. Stay near me. Lila's hands trembled. This is because of you. Damien's eyes went black. This is because of my enemies. Damien stepped closer, voice low. You negotiate like you belong here. I don't, Lyla whispered. Damien's eyes stayed on hers. Not yet. A few days later, Damien came home bleeding. He stepped out of the elevator, suit dark at the side. Lila's cup shattered in her hand. Damien! His eyes snapped to her. Quiet. Marco moved to support him. Damien swayed, stubborn. Lyla rushed forward, furious and terrified at once. Sit down, she snapped. Damien's eyes flashed. Don't command me. Then bleed somewhere else. Lyla shot back. Sit. For a second, the penthouse went silent. Damien stared at her like no one had ever dared. Then he let Marco guide him to the couch. Lyla ripped open gauze, hands shaking, and cut the fabric away. The wound was stitched badly and reopened. Not a bullet. A blade. Who did this? Lyla whispered. A man who won't do it again, Damien said. Lyla pressed gauze to his side. Her hands trembled. You could have died. Damien watched her face. You're afraid. You're bleeding? Lyla snapped, tears threatening. Damien's mouth curved faintly. Good observation. Lyla hated him for making her care. She rewrapped the wound, focused on the task because panic was useless. When she finished, she sat back, breathing hard. Why are you letting me do this? Damien's eyes stayed on hers. Because you hate me, and you still helped. Lyla swallowed hard. I didn't want you to die. Damien's voice was quiet. Exactly. The next week, Damien told her, pack a bag. Lyla froze. Why? You need air, Damien said. And I need silence. They flew out by helicopter, the city shrinking below. Lyla gripped the seat, jaw tight. Damien watched her. You're terrified. I'm not, Lyla lied. Damien's mouth curved. You're honest when you're afraid. The cabin in the mountains was simple, quiet, surrounded by trees and snow. No guards in sight. Lyla searched anyway. No cameras. No hidden men. She turned on Damien. Why is it just us? Damien poured water. Because I want to know who you are without an audience. I'm the girl you trapped, Lyla said. Damien's eyes didn't blink. You're the girl who walked into my den and barked. They ate, argued, sat in silence. Damien didn't touch her. That restraint was its own pressure. On the second night, Lyla sat by the fire, staring at the flames. Do you ever feel guilty? No, Damien said. Lyla's laugh was sharp. So you're empty. Damien looked at her, calm. Guilt is for men who pretend they didn't choose. Lyla swallowed. I didn't choose this. Damien's voice softened by a fraction. Not the first time. But you will. Lyla's chest tightened. Why are you so sure? Damien held her gaze. Because you're tired. And I'm offering you a place where you can rest. That's not kindness, Lyla whispered. That's control. Damien nodded once. Yes. The honesty cracked something in her. Damien reached into his pocket and placed a passport, an envelope of cash, and car keys on the table. You can leave tomorrow, he said. Lyla froze. What? No chase. No punishment, Damien said. If you walk, you're free. Her heart slammed. There's a catch. Damien's gaze stayed steady. If you leave, you sever ties. No return. No messages. No connection. And my mother? Lyla whispered. She stays in care, Damien said. I won't harm her. Lyla's throat tightened. Why are you offering this? Damien's jaw flexed. Because I don't want a prisoner. I want someone who chooses me. Lyla stared at the keys, hands shaking. She slept badly, woke before dawn, and stood by the car with her breath fogging the air. Damien waited on the porch, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Lyla got into the car, started it, rolled forward. Her phone buzzed. An update about her mother's vitals. Stable. Improved. Lyla's chest tightened. She pictured her mother's smile. Fragile hope. She pictured Tasha's voice breaking. She pictured Damien bleeding on her couch, refusing to fall because weakness could get them all killed. She stopped the car. Tears spilled. She whispered, I don't know what freedom even is anymore. She turned around and walked back. Damien didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He just watched her approach like he'd been holding his breath. I'm not staying because you own me, Lyla said, voice raw. Damien's eyes held hers. Then why? Because I'm tired of running from every monster, Lyla whispered. And you're the only one who ever offered me a door. Damien's jaw tightened. Lyla lifted her chin. If I stay, it's on my terms. Speak, Damien said. No surveillance, Lyla said. Weekly calls. Weekly visits. And if your world threatens me, you tell me. Damien stared at her, then nodded. Agreed. Lyla exhaled like she'd been holding air for years. Then the world came for her. It happened fast. On a night Damien looked more exhausted than cruel. A crack echoed from below, muffled gunfire. Alarms didn't sound. This building didn't rely on alarms. It relied on fear. Damien's phone rang. He answered, face tightening. He hung up and looked at Lyla. Safe room. Now. What's happening? Lyla demanded, heart slamming. A message, Damien said. They rushed into a steel-lined room hidden behind a panel. Screens lit up. The lobby, the garage, the stairwell. Armed men moving. Lyla's breath came fast. They're attacking you. Damien's voice was calm. Deadly. Yes. On one screen, A tall man under a floodlight smiled straight into a camera and waved. Damien's jaw tightened. Kellen Rourke. Lyla's stomach flipped. Who? Damien's voice dropped. A rival. Rourke lifted something into view. A blonde woman, bound and gagged, eyes wild. Lyla's blood turned to ice. Tasha. She collapsed to her knees. No. No, no. Damien's face went hard. How did he find her? Marco's voice was tight. She came looking. Lyla sobbed. This is my fault. Damien's eyes snapped to hers. This is his fault. Marco's phone buzzed. He's calling. Damien said. Speaker. Rourke's voice came through, amused. Damien, I heard you got yourself a waitress. Damien's voice was ice. Release her. Rourke chuckled. Where's the waitress? Damien's jaw tightened. Not here. Rourke's tone sharpened. Then your friend loses something she can't get back. Lyla surged forward, shaking. Rourke. Marco grabbed her arm, but Lyla ripped free, voice raw. If you hurt her. Rourke laughed. I like the mouth. Damien snapped. Stop. Lyla swallowed and forced steadiness. You want leverage? Fine. But you don't touch her. Rourke hummed. Bring yourself to Dock 19. Alone. Damien's voice turned lethal. If you touch her, you die. Rourke sighed theatrically. Then hurry. The call ended. Lyla's hands trembled. He wants me. Damien's gaze was hard. He wants control. I can trade, Lyla said. No, Damien snapped. Lyla stepped closer, tears streaming. You said partner. Let me help. Damien stared at her, torn between rage and fear. Finally he exhaled. One call, he said. With me listening. Lyla dialed Rourke, hands shaking. He answered instantly. Waitress. Lyla forced her voice calm. Touch her and Damien will tear you apart. Rourke laughed softly. He might try, but I'm interested in you. Lyla's stomach turned. I'm not your toy. Rourke purred. Bring yourself, or your friend loses a finger. Lyla's voice dropped, steady and cold. If you hurt her, I'll tell Damien where you hide, who betrays you, and you'll die knowing you did it to yourself. Rourke paused, then laughed, delighted. See you soon. Lyla ended the call, chest heaving. Damien looked at her like she'd surprised him. You threatened him. I meant it, Lyla said. Damien nodded once. Good. He turned to Marco. We move. Damien left Lyla in the safe room with screens full of violence she wasn't supposed to see. Minutes crawled. Lyla pressed her fists to her mouth, praying. At Dock 19, Rourke stood by the water, smiling. Tasha knelt beside him, bruised, trembling. Damien approached alone, hands empty, expression calm. Rourke clapped slowly. All noble. Release her, Damien said. Rourke's grin widened. Where's the waitress? Not here, Damien replied. Rourke's smile faded. He nodded, and a man pressed a knife to Tasha's cheek. Lyla screamed silently. Damien didn't flinch. If you cut her, you die before she hits the ground. Rourke laughed. You're bluffing. A shadow moved behind Rourke. Marco. Marco grabbed the knife hand, twisted. The knife fell. He slammed the man down. Gunfire erupted. Rourke spun, shocked, and a shot hit his shoulder. He staggered, snarling. Damien stepped forward like a verdict. Rourke coughed, smiling through blood. You fell for her. Damien's jaw clenched. No. Rourke laughed. Yes. Then a shot cracked from the opposite side. Damien jerked, hand flying to his side. Blood bloomed. Lyla's whole body went cold. Rourke's grin turned triumphant. Everyone bleeds. Damien didn't fall. He grabbed Rourke by the collar and slammed him into a steel beam, eyes black. Rourke rasped, laughing. Finish it. Damien leaned in, whispered something no camera caught. Then a final shot. Rourke crumpled. On screen, Marco dragged Tasha to safety. Damien swayed, refusing to drop. When they returned to the penthouse, Tasha stumbled in first, sobbing, and crashed into Lyla's arms. Oh my God! Tasha cried. Lyla! I'm sorry, Lyla sobbed. I'm sorry. The elevator dinged. Damien stepped out, pale, blood on his shirt. I still dangerous. Tasha froze, hatred and fear flashing. That's him, Tasha whispered. Lyla stood between them without thinking. Tasha's voice shook. You did this. Damien's gaze stayed on Lyla. My enemy did this. Tasha spat, furious. You think you're a hero? No, Damien said. Tasha's eyes flashed. Then what are you? Damien's voice went quiet, raw around the edges. I'm the man who keeps her mother alive. And I'm the man who will kill anyone who tries to take her. Lyla's chest tightened at the possessive truth of it. Tasha looked at Lyla, pleading. Come with me, please. Lyla's throat closed. She wanted to. She did. But she pictured her mother's room, the remission she was praying for, the safety she couldn't replace. I can't, Lyla whispered. Tasha's face crumpled. Why? Lyla swallowed hard. Because leaving doesn't mean safe. It means hunted. Tasha shook her head, tears spilling. Then call me. Don't disappear. I won't, Lyla promised. Damien watched them, jaw tight. Then he reached into his pocket and tossed Lyla her old phone. No surveillance, he said. You keep it. Lyla stared, stunned. Damien nodded at the door. She can leave. Now, no one stops her. Tasha blinked, shocked. Damien's voice stayed cold, honest. But if she says my name outside these walls, my enemies will hear it. That will be on her. Tasha swallowed, fear returning. She hugged Lyla hard. Stay alive, she whispered, then left with Marco guiding her out. When the door closed, Lyla turned on Damien, tears and rage tangled. You got shot. It's nothing, Damien said. Lyla stepped closer, voice shaking. Sit. Damien's eyes flashed, a faint spark of amusement. He sat, and Lyla pressed gauze to his side with trembling hands. I thought you died, she whispered. Damien's gaze softened by a fraction. I didn't. Don't do that again, Lyla said. Damien exhaled. I can't promise. Lyla's tears fell onto his shirt. She wiped them angrily. I hate you. I know, Damien said. And I hate that you make me feel safe, Lyla whispered. Damien's voice was quiet. That's not hate. Lyla swallowed hard. Don't. Damien held her gaze. Don't vanish, he said. Keep your voice. Damien refused the hospital. Of course he did. He sat on the couch while Lyla pressed gauze to his side, and his men moved around him like the penthouse was a battlefield. Call Dr. Raskin, Marco said under his breath. Damien's eyes snapped. No. Lyla lifted her chin, voice shaking but firm. Yes. Damien stared at her like she'd struck him. Lyla didn't blink. You promised me choices. This is mine. You get treated. Damien's jaw flexed. You're trembling. I'm furious, Lyla said, wiping tears with the back of her hand. You can't keep bleeding for me and pretending it's nothing. A small, strange silence fell. Then Damien exhaled, a controlled surrender. Fine. One doctor. No records. Marco moved instantly, relief flashing in his eyes. When the doctor arrived, quiet, discreet, Lyla stood close enough to hear every instruction. Stitches. Antibiotics. Rest. Damien listened like a man who hated needing anyone. After the doctor left, Damien looked at Lyla, voice low. You took command. Lyla's laugh was brittle. Someone had to. Damien's gaze softened by a fraction. You didn't run. Lyla swallowed hard. I wanted to. Damien nodded once, accepting. And you didn't. Lyla's chest tightened, the truth spilling out. I'm scared that if I leave, I'll be hunted. I'm scared that if I stay, I'll forget who I was. Damien's voice was quiet. Then don't forget. Tell me. Lyla stared at him, shaking. I was the girl who carried plates and smiled at men who treated me like air. I was the girl who thought debt was the worst monster on earth. Damien's eyes held hers. And now, Lyla inhaled shakily. Now I know monsters have names. Damien's mouth curved faintly. And you still speak to them. Lyla's voice dropped. Only because I have to. Damien's gaze sharpened. And because part of you refuses to bow. Lyla looked away, throat tight. Don't flatter me. Damien's voice was steady. It's not flattery. It's the reason you're still yourself. If you're still here, do me a quick favor. Hit the like button so the story reaches more people. And comment, still standing, if you want Lyla to keep fighting instead of fading. Now, watch what happens when her mother gets better and the last excuse disappears. Weeks passed. The city moved on. Lyla didn't. Her mother improved. Slowly. Then more. The doctor started using the word Lyla barely dared to believe. Remission. The day Marla said it aloud, Lyla laughed and cried at once, gripping her mother's hands. Remission, Marla whispered. Honey, I might come home. Lyla shook with relief. You will. You will. Marla's eyes sharpened with love and worry. Now you can leave him. Lyla froze. Marla squeezed her hand. I don't want you trapped because of me. Lyla's throat tightened. Mom! Marla's voice was firm. Freedom isn't a place. It's a choice. That night, Lyla returned to the penthouse with the word remission pounding in her chest. Damien stood by the window watching the city. He didn't turn. Your mother is better. Lyla's breath caught. She's in remission. Damien turned, eyes unreadable. Good. That's all. Lyla demanded, emotion spilling. Good. Damien stepped closer. That's what you wanted. Lyla's voice broke. It's what I needed. And now the debt is gone. The reason is gone. Damien's jaw flexed. Yes. Lyla's heart pounded. So you let me go. Damien's gaze held hers. If you want to go. Lyla swallowed hard. You're giving me a choice. I am, Damien said, voice low. Because if you stay now, it has to be real. Real, Lyla repeated. Meaning what? No cage, Damien said. No forced presence. You leave when you want. You come when you want. You speak to who you want. Lyla stared, stunned. Why? Damien's voice roughened. Because I don't want to be the man you hate yourself for loving. The words hit like a quiet punch. Lyla's chest tightened. You already took so much. Damien nodded once. Then let me give something back. Silence stretched. Lyla's hands trembled. If I stay, it's because I choose you. Damien's eyes darkened. Something like fear and relief tangled. Say it. Lyla whispered. I choose you. Damien exhaled, the smallest crack in his control. He rested his forehead against hers. Careful. Thank you, he whispered. Lyla's eyes stung. Don't make me regret it. I won't, Damien said, voice low. The next day, Damien called a meeting with his closest people. Lyla sat at the table, not hidden, not ignored. Damien spoke calmly. From today, Lyla Green is under my protection as my partner. Anyone who calls her property answers to me. One man hesitated. Damien's gaze cut him. The hesitation died. Damien looked at Lyla. Do you have a problem? Lyla swallowed, then forced her voice steady. If anyone threatens my mother or my friend, I want to know. The room went silent. Damien nodded once. Agreed. Months later, Marla Green walked out of St. Caro, shaky but smiling, wrapped in a coat with Lyla's arms around her. Marla whispered, Are you happy? Lyla swallowed, honest. I'm learning. Marla smiled through tears. Then keep learning. That night, Lyla stood on the penthouse balcony with Damien. The city lights glittered. The wind was cold. Damien asked quietly, Do you regret it? Lyla stared at the skyline. I regret the world that made this the only way I could save her. Damien nodded once. And me? Lyla's breath hitched. I regret how safe you can make me feel. Damien's mouth curved faintly. That scares you. Yes, Lyla admitted. Damien's voice softened. Good. Fear keeps you honest. Lyla laughed softly, then turned to him, eyes wet. You pulled me in that night and whispered like you already owned my breath. Damien's gaze held hers. And you still looked me in the eye. Lyla stepped closer. "I love you," she whispered, voice trembling. "God help me. I love you." Damien's breath caught. "I will," he said, and the promise sounded like both protection and devotion. She didn't know what tomorrow would cost, only that she was done being invisible. Somewhere down below, the city kept moving, unaware. Up here, Lyla finally chose her own heartbeat, and that choice was louder than any gunshot in the dark between them. And if this story kept you glued to the end, do 3 quick things for me. Like the video, subscribe to Storylens TV, and comment what you would have done. Take the keys and run, or stay when the devil finally offered you a door. Thanks for watching and listening. I appreciate you more than you know, and I'll see you in the next story.